Dana, welcome back to TNT Sports. How are you, sir?
Good. Thanks for having me.
Well, no, thanks for having us in the world-famous War Room. Whenever I'm in and around this place, I just feel the need to start attempting to make fights. Not to obviously the standards that you, Mick and Sean do, but there's something about this room that just gets the juices flowing when you start to see names on walls and what have you.
No, I agree. That this is where it all happens. I mean, we spend so many hours a week in this room. It's fun though. I love it. I say this to people all the time. If you walk, this is a pretty nice place to work. So if you walk around here, this place is beautiful. This is probably the ugliest room in the place, but it is the heart and soul, like the nucleus of the company. It's literally without this room, none of the other stuff exists.
How does it work? You come in, lock the door, a few drinks, a few snacks.
So normally how this is set up is there's two chairs here. I sit here, Shelby sits here, Hunter Campbell sits here, and Mick Maynard's usually on the phone because he lives in Texas.
Okay.
So yeah, we're in here for unless Mick's here for matchmaking meetings when the Contender Series is going on, because they're on Tuesdays. He flies in on Tuesday for Wednesday nights. So yeah, we literally sit in here for it's one of those things where we'll be in here and the next thing you know, 3 hours has gone by, and we've just been talking about fights and who's going to do what and who's not ready and who's hurt and
What's that feeling when somebody suggests something in that room and all of you just like eyes light up and go, that's the one?
Yeah, no, it's great. I mean, it's the best, and it's also great too. I love. So what I do is all three of these guys, Mick, Hunter, and Sean, all have concepts and ideas and things that they want to do, and different guys control different divisions, and I like to push them. I like to push these guys, and they'll tell me, this is what we're thinking about for the.
So you're the antagonist. You're the one that.
100%. I'm the one that.
You throw in little curveballs.
I'm the one that goes in and pushes them and says, "Why should we do this?" Then they start fighting amongst themselves on why this shouldn't happen, and then it just it's actually a really good process. We have a really good process in how we make fights.
Have you ever suggested something that's really off the wall, but everybody in the room's gone, yeah, let's do it?
100%. The BMF. The BMF
is that
belt.
How that came about? You just threw it out there, and then.
Listen, it's brutality in here, man. When we really get going, it can be brutal sometimes. So, and I'm usually the one that's pushing the button. So that one, I said, guys, before you attack, hear me out on this one. And it wasn't that way. They all loved it. They all loved the BMF. So
well, it worked. It worked.
So here we are.
Absolutely. It's always nice to do these conversations at the end of a 12-month calendar. As you reflect on 2023, what are the big successes from your point of view?
I would have to say the Contender Series. You know what I mean? The Contender Series is such an incredible show and such an amazing way to build talent, where millions of people see these kids fight before they ever step foot in the UFC. And literally all of us love going over. Even the guys in production who film the Contender Series love the show. So it's a really fun thing for us. It sucks that it's only once a year. We could literally do it every Wednesday, 52 weeks a year. But yeah, I would say that's been obviously massively successful. Obviously the business side of it, the gates that we've been doing, the records that we've been breaking, the growth of the business coming out of COVID continues. There's still a ton of places that we haven't been back to yet to have live fights. There's just been so many great moments this last year. I mean, we were blown away by Miami. Madison Square Garden is always good. Even when something bad happened, like the John Jones thing, the Aspinall fight was awesome, and obviously we now have an English heavyweight. So it's been a lot of fun stuff this year.
Is there anything that got away that maybe you wanted to do that maybe wasn't the right time to do it this particular year, and maybe it's getting pushed into next year?
The only thing I can think of that didn't happen that should have happened was John Jones. The John Jones fight. But one of the things that I've always learned in this business is that reality is better than any script you could ever write. It happened for a reason. Whatever the reason is, it will play out in 24, and we'll find out.
we were all talking before about this year alone. We've heard "and new" on 11 occasions, whether they be full championships, interim championships, vacant championships. Is that a sign of how competitive it is in the UFC?
It's always been like that. I mean, you know, it's very, very rare when you find somebody who can absolutely dominate a division. You know, the best fight the best here right out the gates. I mean, you know, we do fights with people you've never heard of that are 7-0 and 8-0 and 9-0. I mean, undefeated guys facing each other early on in their careers. So by the time you break into the top 5, you have literally run through the gauntlet of the baddest human beings in the world in your weight class. So when you find somebody that can get in there and dominate a division, it's special because it's very hard to do here.
Does the attitude of these athletes continue to impress you as well? Like you've just mentioned, I've lost count how many times that a fight has fallen off and then within 24 hours you've flipped it and turned it into something that is completely new and fresh.
Absolutely the fighters, but what you have to look at is how the fight camps have evolved. These trainers, coaches, that's what's evolved. Back in the, 10 years ago, we had these head coaches and trainers that were just, I don't know, they just weren't as good as they were
Fair.
looked at to be. And if you really have fighters that train hard, you know that they're good, you know they're the best in the world, they should be ready to fight anybody anywhere. It's like Khabib said, you know what I mean? When you're the best, when you're looked at and you have that belt and you're the champ, you take on all comers no matter what. And Adesanya's camp, I mean, that's a gangster camp. Those guys are ready to go anytime, anywhere, and pick up the phone. But there's a lot of camps out there like that now. It didn't exist 10 years ago. So what I really think is that the coaching and has evolved, because all of these guys, when you call them and say, we got to fight on Saturday, I'm going to go talk to my team. And now the teams are like, yeah, let's do this. We're ready.
You've already announced the main events for the first 3 months of next year, which is incredibly exciting. You've talked about territories that you want to get back into, Canada being one of them as well, which a lot of people are excited about. From our point of view, Britain, Ireland and Europe, what are the plans for 2024 of bringing the UFC again back to those local areas?
Obviously, England has been incredible for us. It's a place that, Lorenzo and I started to focus on very early. I mean, I think we took our first trip to England to start getting that going in 2002 probably. And if you look at how much the sport has grown in the UK since then, it's amazing. And, guys like Bisping and Conor McGregor and the list goes on and on are a big part of that. And now to have Aspinall, as a heavyweight champion, I'm looking very forward to 24 and the future with this kid.
What's your plans for him? In fact, I'll tell you what we'll do. Let's have a bit of fun.
Yeah.
Do you want a bit? We'll do role play. You be you, I'll be Tom Aspinall. Okay? And I'll pretend that I'm in a meeting with you right now.
Okay.
Okay. Pardon the impression. Okay. All right, Dana. You okay?
No, I'm good.
Yeah,
you
good. Yeah, very well. What did you think of my performance against Pavlovich?
Unbelievable. You looked incredible.
Thank you very much, Dana.
Congratulations.
I would like to fight John Jones, but I know that John Jones is injured right now.
Yeah.
Is there any chance of me being able to fight Stipe Miocic?
No, and we're not stripping John Jones either. He's the greatest mixed martial artist of all time. You're a young guy. You were injured there for a while. You'll get your shot. Just wait. This fight has to happen, and then we'll figure out what's next for you.
I like the way that you carried on that role. That was that was good. When do you anticipate to get Tom out again? Because obviously John is out for a long period of time. So you would anticipate.
I don't know if John's going to be out for a long time. Aspinall could possibly fight again. I don't know. We'll see how this plays out going into the next year. But Jones and Stipe, the fight, they both deserve it. John Jones got injured. There's nothing he can do about it. I don't know. We'll see what happens in 24. If Aspinall wants to fight before that fight happens, why not? Why not let him defend it?
Against?
Whoever. I don't know. We'll figure it out.
Would you? I mean, for me, just as a fan, I'd love to see him fight Stipe.
Okay. Well, that ain't happening.
But it'd be good to see.
Stipe, you have to understand this. if you look at what Stipe has accomplished in the sport, what he's done, you know, where he's at in his career, he wants the John Jones fight, and I get it. Arguably the greatest heavyweight of all time versus the greatest mixed martial artist of all time. He wants that fight. It's a big legacy fight for both guys, you know. You can't just, he was ready for that fight. He was 10 days out or something. And, you know, you pull it out, now he's fighting Aspinall. He wants Jones. And Jones wants Stipe, so it makes sense.
So with that in mind for Tom, you were just mentioning that, does that make it easier, because he is an interim champion, to be able to bring something for the UK fight fans back home?
He's a champ. He's got the belt right now. While John Jones is injured, if he wants to defend the title, we'd absolutely do it.
Excellent. How difficult is having a big event like UFC 300 in the calendar for next year and getting all the moving parts in the right place to create the card that you want to create? Because if we look at 100 and 200, they were absolutely ridiculous.
Well, the difference between a 300 is, listen, if you look at the card this weekend, this card's awesome. You know what I mean? So you want to build these amazing cards that make people lose their minds. But there's also much more to it too with a 300. There's this whole, what is the feel of the show going to be? We put on a live event and a television show too. And what are we going to build around the event? What's going to make 300 more special than this Saturday night? You know what I mean? The last pay-per-view of the year. So there's a lot more that goes into it than just the card. But what you can expect is the first prelim of the night for you to be going like, holy this is the first prelim of the night? This is insane. This isn't even right. These two shouldn't be on the first prelim of the night. That's how good 300 is going to be.
Can I make a request? I know that you're not going to tell me some of the matchups that you're trying to make for 300, but one request as a fan. And again, I know that there's no room for nostalgia or sentimentality, and I know that he's already got a fight booked, but Jim Miller, he was on 100, he was on 200. I would love to see him on 300. I know that he's got a fight booked on the 13th of January, but if we could get him on that card, man, that would be sensational.
Yeah.
What a story.
That is a great story. That is a great story.
I'd even give you the matchup. The winner of Tony and Paddy this weekend.
I'll get that done for you.
Put it in this crazy room at some point, yeah.
Yeah, I'll get Jim Miller on the card for you.
That'd be awesome.
Consider that done.
We've got to shake on that. That's a binding
Christmas. That's my Christmas present to you.
That's a binding contract. I like it. Let's talk this weekend, because UFC 296, to close out the year for the big number cards.
Text Mick and Sean and tell them we need Jim Miller on UFC 300, so I don't forget.
I love it.
And then I make a promise to him and then forget about it and don't do it.
No problem.
Awesome. UFC 296 this weekend. We've been speaking about Tom, obviously, as a British champion. We've got another one in Leon, defending again against Colby. What an unbelievable main event to kind of close out the year.
I agree. I mean, this card is so fun, man. And when you think about Colby versus Leon, I was out last night, and this kid came up to me. He's like, I'm betting everything I got on Colby Covington. There's no way Colby Covington loses this fight. Even you said publicly that if Usman wasn't around, Colby Covington would be the long reigning champion. And I'm like, hey, listen, kid, he beat Usman twice. You know what I mean? If you thought the first one was a fluke, he beat him the second time. You never know what that. It's the crazy thing about this sport. This is the hardest sport ever to gamble on, because you never know what's going to happen, right? Everybody who bet on Usman in the first Leon Edwards fight, they were counting their money right up until that head kick with a minute left of the fight. Then going into the second fight, everybody absolutely knew Usman was going to win the fight, because he wouldn't make that mistake again, and da-da-da-da-da. And here we are now with guys walking up to me saying, there's no way Colby Covington loses this fight. It's what's so great about the sport. You don't feel that way when you watch boxing. You get a guy who's a 1,500 to 1 favorite and stuff like that. You don't know in this sport. So going into this card, even Tony Ferguson and Paddy Pimblett,
it's a great fight.
Tons of questions,
of course,
about both guys, and they will all be answered on Saturday night. And the list goes. Shavkat, and Wonderboy. How fun is that? It's a great card. Yeah, I agree with you.
Do you still? I can see that your face lights up every time that you're speaking about these fights. Do you still get that big, on fight night when you're making the walk to whichever arena it is, do you still get that buzz?
I love this so much. I still love what I do. And since I've gotten healthy over the last couple of years, I've taken on so much more. I have so much more on my plate now, and I love it. I can't get enough. I love it.
What are we getting in 2024, Dana? What's the big ambition that you want to achieve next year?
Well, one of the things that I'm one of these guys that, not just professionally but personally, I want to be better tomorrow than I am today. It's why when people always ask me about, you ever, if you look at the company and what's going on, do you ever just look? No, I don't look around, and I don't look back. Yesterday doesn't matter to me. It's all about tomorrow and what the future is. So I'm always looking at the future and, tomorrow. I'm never looking back. And people say, isn't it fun? No, it's not fun to look back. It's fun to look forward and what's next. What are we going to do next year? So one of the things that I love to do is I love to break records. I love to always go to the next level. And every year, coming out of a year like this, I'm like, how the hell are we going to beat this year? And then we do it the next year. And I think that's just this, it's obviously the way I'm built, but it's ingrained in my team too. My team are a bunch of killers, and we go out every year and just do it.
Is there a particular territory next year that you'd like to take the UFC to?
Well, if you look at what went on during COVID, there's still so many places that we haven't been back to. So when you think about the records being broken and the gates and all this other stuff, wait till we get back to some of these places that we haven't been to yet. Not to mention fight nights. I mean, we just did Austin, Texas, and it was the biggest fight night in U.S. history. So, yeah, we're going to do a lot of fun stuff next year.
Well, we're looking forward for some of those fun nights to be back on British soil at some point in 2024.
Well, we always, every time we go to England, it's an experience, man. What I would like to do, we've been back to, we go back to London all the time. We need to get back to Manchester and some of these other.
My home city, come on, man, let's do Manchester, yeah?
We do. We need to get back to some of these cities in England. Like to get back to Ireland again, and yeah. Is that the second promise that you're making me in this interview? Well, I'm definitely going to Ireland. I'm definitely going to Ireland next year. But it won't be the UFC first. It'll be something else first that I'm going to Ireland with. So I'd like to go. You can't do that at the end of the interview. I'd like to go to Ireland twice. I'd like to go to Ireland twice next year.
Is it to do with a certain former 145 and 155 pound champion?
We'll be in Ireland twice next year, hopefully. Hopefully.
I'm just looking at the camera. You know what's happening. You know what's coming. It's going to be exciting times.
It is.
Will the gentleman that you're kind of referring to there also compete in the UFC at some point?
How do you know I'm referring to Conor?
I'm just guessing, man.
That's a bad guess.
Okay.
You're not right.
But will we see Conor in the UFC next year? Because a lot of our fans absolutely adore him.
Yeah, listen, at the end of the day, I say it all the time. Conor is extremely wealthy and has a lot of different options in his life. When Conor gets that hunger back and really wants to come back and fight, it's all up to him. If you look at what the guy has accomplished in such a short amount of time, and the amount of money that he's made, and the business opportunities that he's taken outside of the octagon, Conor can do whatever the hell Conor wants to do, and good for him.
Absolutely. Listen, you have a wonderful holiday season, sir.
You too.
Thank you so much for a wonderful 2023. I'm looking forward to, one, finding out what you're doing in Ireland, and then two, looking forward to a fantastic 2024. All the best.
Thanks for having me. Always a pleasure.
Thank you. And you.